Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Monday, December 24th, 2018, 6:07 p.m. Pacific Time, Christmas Eve. So I'm going to do a short update tonight. Going to be showing you a couple of more things on Copernicus, and we're going to do an earthquake update again. So I'm still looking at Indonesia. I have surface level methane pulled up on Copernicus on cams. Indonesia is right down here. Krakatoa is still going off, and I was just looking at the methane levels to see kind of what the methane levels are down there, and Indonesia is quite high. And also up here, this is China and this is India and parts of Asia. So this is these are hot spots for methane. So I'm going to load up this movie and I'm going to show you, look at how hot Indonesia is with methane. This is and this is all Indonesia down here, these islands, and then Papua New Guinea's over here. This is Java, and Krakatoa is right in between, right here in between Java and Sumatra. Sumatra's hot, Indonesia's hot, and so I just found that interesting, and this is using the new color ledger for methane, and so the blue is in the ocean here, but where it starts going into the darker, like the browns, reds and browns, that's on the land, it looks like. So they've got a lot of methane, and methane is released from volcanoes when they erupt. Oh, I forgot to show you, this is from the latest data that CAMS has up on methane is from Sunday the 23rd, and I have the Southeast Asia and Indonesia area selected and surface level. So there's that. Then we can, CAMS updates their data on methane and carbon dioxide tend to lag a couple of days, sometimes longer than that, but on everything else their data seems to be current or up to date. So here's sulfur dioxide for today, the 24th. I have Southeast Asia, Indonesia, total column chosen, and we can see that we're high levels of sulfur dioxide are still being released from Krakatoa. It's still going off, and apparently it's collapsed, and so nobody knows exactly what's going to happen with it. So now it's going into the forecast period here. But Monday, so if I go back to and just run the movie for Monday again, you'll see it's not loading. I have to refresh it. You'll see that it's still high levels of sulfur dioxide. I did a video, I think it was in May, on volcanic gases and sulfur dioxides and stuff. I did a whole thing on volcanoes and the kinds of gases that are released when volcanoes erupt, and you have high levels of sulfur dioxide, ozone, carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor, and a whole bunch of other stuff too. and the sulfur dioxide goes straight up into the atmosphere and starts breaking down into all these other things and interacting. And yes, it does cool, tend to cool the atmosphere because it creates a blanket for the sun's rays. But also when it starts, it turns into nitric acid, and so when it rains, it's acid rain, and then it heats everything up faster too. It's a whole thing. Now here's ozone, and yesterday I showed you this is the globe and this is ozone at total column, and this is for Monday the 24th. And remember I showed you this hole over here on the western Pacific, and also sulfur dioxide, when it goes up into the atmosphere, does destroy the ozone layer. And so with this high readings of sulfur dioxide, I expect this thinning to get worse up here in the West Pacific. So I just wanted to show you that, because that has grown. That's gotten bigger. That's going across probably half the Pacific, and that's registering 200 Dobson units there. And so I find that disturbing. So also the ozone is what protects us from UV radiation and from cosmic rays and things like that. And I wanted to show you, we've got a coronal hole. This is the sun, and this is from spaceweather.com, and this is from December 24th. And you see this long line coming down, this dark line, that's a coronal hole in the sun's atmosphere. And so this is where cosmic wind will be coming out, and when it hits the earth in a couple of days, it can cause geomagnetic storms and earthquakes and all kinds of stuff. And there's a coronal hole over the north pole of the sun and over the south pole as well. So there's that. And I wanted to take you over to NASA Worldview next. And I know that in addition to Krakatoa, and it's cloudy there, we can't really see anything over there, but in Italy, Sicily, Mount Etna has been erupting, and that's big in the news right now. And there's been an earthquake, lots of little ones that made up to a 4 point something. So here's Mount Etna from space on December 24th on NASA Worldview, and we can see here's the cloud or the smoke or whatever from Mount Etna, and I thought it would be more, but it's pretty much right there in that area. And so far it doesn't seem to be a threat to people, to nearby areas. That's what I've heard, but you know, better to be safe than sorry. It's highly active. So there's that. And now I want to take you over to USGS, and we're going to do our nightly earthquake report, kindergarten style. I'm not Dutch Sense. I don't intend to be Dutch Sense or compete with him. but he goes into great detail. He is the master at analyzing earthquakes and predicting them and forecasting, where the force is going to go. I don't do that. I don't do predicting. I just do a kindergarten style of looking at the earthquakes and around the globe and seeing like the magnitudes and where they're located on these red lines, which is where the tectonic plates are. Because when you have an earthquake on one side of the world, it can affect stuff on the other side of the world because all these plates are interconnected. And also these plates move up and down and back and forth and sideways, and so they're kind of floating. And so this is what we live on, and so we're always in motion and in movement. And if the motion gets to be too much, then you have an earthquake, and then you have volcanoes, and magma is involved, and movement is involved in earthquakes and volcanoes. And so this is why I find all this so fascinating. And as we go closer and closer to the end times, I anticipate that the earthquakes will ramp up faster and become larger, and the volcanoes will be more violent as well as we're approaching the end times, and everything's shifting and moving at an exponential rate. So I have USGS 1-day all magnitudes pulled up, and right now we're showing 331 earthquakes worldwide that have registered on USGS. And I know some other places, they register earthquakes a little differently, and sometimes USGS doesn't pick up one that the others do, and vice versa. But I like to stay simple, and so I'm just going to stick with USGS at the moment. So the red ones are the ones that are going off right now, and so we're going to start up here off the coast of Russia, and we're going to make our way around the globe and look at the activity tonight. So we're going to go up here and just going to do a zoom in the North Pacific Ocean here, and this is where that 7.3 earthquake happened a few days ago, and they've had 11 earthquakes today up there. They actually had a quite large one. They had a 6.1 at 4:41 this morning Pacific time. The other, and this is right on the corner of this red line, and this is Kamchatka, and then this is the Aleutian Basin. These are the Aleutian Islands, and then that goes up into the Bering Strait and the Arctic. So here I'm going to read them off. We've had a 4.8, 4.4, 5.4, 4.4, 4.8, 4.6, 6.1, 4.7, 5.0, 4.7, and 4.6. That's what's listed right here. They're overlapping, but I'm just reading the list over here. And so they're still coming in. That hasn't stopped. And then we're going to go down here to Japan. This next earthquake, and this is, see this red line, this is a tectonic plate. This is the Ring of Fire, on the west side of the Ring of Fire, and this is considered part of Russia, 128 kilometers southeast of Kurilsk, Russia, it was a 4.9, 35 kilometers deep. Then here's one off the coast of Japan, Hokkaido, Japan. It was a 4.6, and it was 127 kilometers deep. That was quite a bit deeper. And then off the coast of mainland Japan, here's Tokyo up here, there have been 5, and they have been sizable. There's been a 4.7, 4.6, 4.7, 4.7, and then the most recent one was a 5.2 at 4:10 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. That's this big one. That's the 5.2. So going to keep an eye on those. And then over here in the Philippines, there was a 4.7 that was 60 kilometers deep. Here is a 4.6 at Kota Ternate, Indonesia, 55 kilometers deep. And 4.7 at Papua New Guinea, 108 kilometers deep. 4.4 Samlaki, Indonesia, 139 kilometers deep. See, these are deep, or deeper than a lot of them. 4.5 at Kepulauan Barat Daya, Indonesia, 166 kilometers deep. And that's all over there. And I'll go ahead and finish up the South Pacific. There was a 4.8 at Tonga, 156 kilometers deep, and a 5.0 south of the Kermadec Islands, 151 kilometers deep, just north of New Zealand. And you can see that these are all on the red line. And then over here we had a 4.0 at Doloran, Iran, 10 kilometers deep. Now notice that's shallow. All these others were like 100 kilometers and so forth. So these are on land. Here's a 4.8 at Latakia, Greece, 10 kilometers deep. And here's a 4.3 at Lithuania, Italy, 10 kilometers deep. And I think that's the one that was off the coast of Sicily. So that's right by Mount Etna, is right up here. And so the earthquake happened right out here in the ocean, right next to Mount Etna. Mount Etna is right up here. And that happened at 8:50 this morning, Pacific time. Or early in the morning, UTC time. Like 10 till 1. Now let's go over to Hawaii. And we've had some small earthquakes. We've had 16. So we can see the number of earthquakes increasing on a day-by-day basis here since I've started doing this. I've only started doing this week, in the last few days, doing these earthquake reports. So I'm learning as we go too. So let's see. Let's see what the biggest one was. Looks like a 2.6 was the biggest one. They were in the 2s and 1s. But we can zoom in, and the red ones are the ones that have just happened. And we can see that they're happening along the coastline, or along, not exactly on the coastline, but on the southern end of the island, southern border. And then we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here by Volcano on the main island, and we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here at the Hawaii volcanoes. So that's activity as well, and there's still activity, you know, volcanic activity going on over there. Now we're going to hop down to South America, and we're showing a 4.1 at Calama, Chile, 139 kilometers deep, and a 4.2 at Putre, Chile, 144 kilometers deep. So now up here at the Dominican Republic, we have 11 earthquakes in this area. They're small. This is a seismically active region as well. You can see the red line going all the way around. And they were, but let's see, they registered 3.0 was the highest. That was pretty good size. And this was in the ocean. 43 kilometers north of Charlotte, Amalie, U.S. Virgin Islands. So that was a 3.0. Let's see what this one was. Oh, this was a 3.6. That was the biggest one. And that was at British Virgin Islands too. So 3s and 2s and some 1s. That was a 2.1 at Guanica, Puerto Rico, and so forth. Then we had a 4.4 at Manzanillo, Mexico, and 10 kilometers deep. It's in the ocean off the coast of Mexico here, right by one of the red lines. And now let's go up to the United States. Nothing up here in the northeast. And we had 1.9 at Tiptonville, Tennessee, 7 kilometers deep. 1.6 at Okarche, Oklahoma, 5 kilometers deep. And then up here in the Yellowstone region, Yellowstone is in this upper northwest corner of Wyoming, but this this hazard zone comes down through this area. So in this view we have 6 earthquakes, small, ranging from 1.4 down to a 0.5. So that's in that hazard area. And in case you don't know how to turn on the hazards, if you're in the US, you can go over here to settings and click on US hazards, and you can see if it's in the yellows or the reds, that's the hazardous areas. That's the more prone. This is the New Madrid seismic zone over here. And then this is the Yellowstone area over here. And then this is the San Andreas area over here. And the Cascadia subduction zone and all this stuff. I'm still learning, so forgive me if I don't say something exactly right. I'll get it. And we had a 1.5 at Arlington Heights, Washington, and a 2.2 at Forks, Washington. It looks like, can't tell if it's in the ocean. Looks like it was right on the coastline there. Yep, it's right on the coast. 35 kilometers deep. So that was a little deeper than what we're seeing on some of these. Next, we're not seeing anything in Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, or Utah. So now we're going to hit Nevada and then California. We just had this one. Spanish Springs. Actually, this is up at Pyramid Lake. It's right. This is Pyramid Lake, and this is right to the west. There are these mountains that kind of go all the way around Pyramid Lake, and this is the Virginia Mountains, and it was a 1.5, and it was 12 kilometers deep at 3:16 this afternoon. So there's that. Nothing in Reno, Lake Tahoe, Carson City looks clear today. Now if we go on down here, let me zoom out, see if I'm getting everything. Let's see. We've got some small ones down here by Hawthorne. This is in the Hawthorne region. This is Walker Lake here. And this is mining country down here. 1.0 at Hawthorne. 1.2 at Hawthorne. And then these are smaller. So these are small ones that I'm not going to really worry about, 1.3, but it just shows movement. And whenever you have these small ones, you also have these volcanic gases coming up through the earth, escaping. So you're going to have methane, you're going to have sulfur dioxide, ozone, things like that coming up. And then these are down in southern, getting down towards southern Nevada, and where the test site is, and Area 51 and all of that. And so we always see small ones down here, so for whatever reason. And had a microquake, a minus 0.2 at Pahrump, this little blue dot here. And when it's a minus, it's due to an algorithm. It registered, but we couldn't feel it. Here's a minus 0.3. I don't even see where that one's showing up. Oh, California. Cyril's California. So there's that. And then coming over to California, we've got a few small ones coming across through Death Valley. Okay, that one in Cyril's, this is Death Valley. And here's a larger one. Here's a 1.4 at Wofford Heights. And then down here in Southern California is the next active region that we're looking at. From Los Angeles down. Here's Los Angeles. And we can see that still this swarm over here. It's pretty active today. We've got 43 on the map when I zoomed in here with this group, and then over here and down here. So it doesn't matter whether it's from fracking or what these are from, it's showing activity and movement. These are pretty small ones and under. And then we got one down here, a 2.0 at Delta, Baja, Mexico. There's Tijuana. Here's San Diego. They're pretty quiet today. And so you can just see them dotted around. Here's a few coming up. No huge ones though. Here's some over here at Bridgeport. That's a 1.3. Here's a 1.1 at Mammoth Lakes. We usually have some over there. 1.1 Tom's Place and so forth. Let's see where this is. Oh, I already showed that, Bridgeport. And then this cluster is at the geysers. And there have been 22 earthquakes there today. That's another active area. And they've been small, ones and under, it looks like. And nothing at Oroville. Here's Chico. Here's Oroville over here. And that's it for California. And now let's move on up the coast to Alaska. Oh, we already showed these in Washington. Canada doesn't get many. They're not on a fault line. We've got two over here, a 2.1 in Canada and 2.3. Now that's at 0 kilometers deep. That's at 27 kilometers deep. And then Alaska. Here's one out here in the ocean. 2.7 right by the red line. This is the Aleutian Islands. That's volcanic. This is all volcanic. We have active volcanoes going on all the time here. This is a kind of large one popping up. 3.6 at King Salmon, Alaska. 121 kilometers deep. 2.5 at Chignik, Lake, Alaska, 59 kilometers deep. Here's a pretty good sized one, 3.5 at Koktovik, Alaska, 0 kilometers deep. 2.7. Here's a 3.2 at Arctic Village, and so on, 2.0. So let's do a zoom in and look at this cluster down here by Anchorage. We're seeing quite a few here. Now, Alaska normally has between 50 and 100 earthquakes that show up every day because it's a seismically active region. So just in this area that I've zoomed in on, there's 125. Here's Anchorage, and here's where that big one hit. So we're seeing an uptick in the small ones coming down around here and up here in the mountains, and it's still shaking up there. They're small, but small ones count. 2s. Here's a 3.8. 3.8, that's pretty good size. I mean, that's enough to feel. 34 kilometers deep. And I think that was the biggest one. 2.4, 2.5, Big Lake, yeah. Anchorage. Okay, and the rest were 2s and 1s. So let's see if anything else has popped up since while we were doing our report. Well, more more small ones. It doesn't look like big ones that have come in, but the last good sized quake was this one in Greece, the 4.8 over there in Greece. So we got to keep an eye on all of this. And I know this is Christmas time, and a lot of people are busy with shopping and getting ready to be with family and stuff. And a lot of people say, oh, it's a pagan holiday and it's, satanic and all this stuff. And, you make of it what you want to make of it. And I look at it as, what does this time of year represent for you? And for me, it's a spiritual time, because it is a time that we can take pause, and it's the only time really that the whole world kind of stops and is given an opportunity to reflect on the spirituality and on Jesus' birth. And even if he wasn't born on December 25th, it doesn't matter. It's the meaning and what the focus that we're having mentally here. And a lot of people have already, they're at the end of Christmas Day, depending on what time zone you're in. Other people, it's Christmas Eve, and tomorrow is Christmas Day. And I always find it nice for everything to stop for a while, and things can kind of get quiet, and with the stores closing and everything. And I think Christmas has been commercialized way too much, and I really don't like people cutting down all the Christmas trees and putting them up. I find that horrific. I know it's, people do it, but I have a special thing for trees, and I talk to trees and get their energy, and so millions of Christmas trees, pine trees, and fir trees have given their lives so that people can sit around and put lights on them and decorate them and everything and sit around and do their thing. That's the only thing that I don't like, along with the commercialism of this season. And I just feel bad for the trees because they're beings of light, and they're also the lungs of the planet, and without the trees we can't breathe. So, it's just going to bring the end that much faster to cut down all those millions of trees. So, then they got to do something with them. So, anyway, I didn't intend to get off on all of that, but that's just how I feel. But I've had some really mystical spiritual experiences on Christmas Eve and Christmas night, and so everyone, I invite you to take time to reflect on what the season is supposed to be about. And Jesus's message was peace and love thy neighbor and peace on earth. And can we get beyond our differences and our egos and our hatred, and just let go of all of that, and just try to experience a little more love and forgiveness and acceptance. And if you haven't asked for contact with Jesus, you can do that. And even if you don't totally believe in him, I didn't totally believe in him for a long time, and I didn't know if he really existed until I asked. And the same thing with God. It wasn't until I asked, and it's not until you ask that they will make their presence known in your life, and they will give you messages, and everybody gets their messages and in different ways. And so you can say, God, if you're there, and the creator of all, if you're there, let me know. I'm open, and I'm here, and help me to have the ears to hear you communicating with me. And if there's anything I need to do in these last few days and weeks, guide me in it, because we don't know what God's will is for our lives. We don't know. And you can say, Jesus, if you're real, I'm asking you to come and make your presence known to me. Let me be aware of you and your love and your healing of the spirit and healing of the heart in this time. And if you do that, I think you're going to have some pleasant surprises, and maybe some miracles happen. So that's my Christmas Eve earthquake report. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I hope that everyone is safe, and I pray for everybody's safety, and I pray for all the people over in Indonesia that are going through this awful time with the people that have died and they're missing, and so many people displaced with their homes and stuff. And I just pray for their safety. and I ask for peace on earth and goodwill toward men. And until next time, my name is Margo. I love you all. Time is short. God bless every single one of you, and I'll speak to you real soon. Good night.